Everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Ian Rivers over there as well. Listen wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube, and still working to try and get it up on the old X page as well, where you can find all your ways to follow the Beaver Banter podcast presented by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Here we go, another week into Beaver sports. We had the home opener at the Chet, Ian, and I think everybody could agree it could have gone a little better.
Yeah, it definitely could have. The season might be unfortunately unraveling before our eyes, but
for
we'll
those who
touch on that.
It was a 56-23 loss at the hands of the University of Sioux Falls, who was receiving votes going into the week, and it's a really good team. Don't get me wrong, but that was one you thought, like, after the last couple of weeks, I know we talked about it on the show, of like, hey, tough losses, but you know what? You're at home. The Chet's a great place to play. We know the players talk all the time how they feel the Chet is a great home environment, and it is. And it was the home opener. There's a lot of kind of buzz. There's the new look stadium, a lot of, or kind of new features to the stadium, I should say. And it just kind of, the game spiraled out of control a little bit, Ian.
Yeah, unfortunately. It provided some unwanted clarity about what the season might be bringing for the Beavers, which is more of a transitional year than anybody was expecting it to be. Unfortunately, it really just nothing got going from the start for the Beavers. It just kind of, Sioux Falls controlled it. The Beavers couldn't score. They did have a big stop at one point. I can't remember, was it at the end of the first quarter, early in the second quarter, where they came up with a fumble recovery on the goal line that you thought, all right, there's maybe the momentum swing we needed to keep us in this game. And it just wasn't enough. Unfortunately, Sioux Falls played a hell of a game, and the Beavers just could not keep up with them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is a loss where, again, it's just really tough to gauge, because, like you said, it kind of is just the thing that, the first week of the season, you take the loss, you're like, all right, that happens, we'll go. And then the second week of the season, you were right with Winona State till the very end, and you just kind of have it slip through your fingers, and you're like, okay, well, you know what? Like, at least we'll get the home opener. And now, again, kind of for lack of a better term, and again, maybe pun intended, maybe not, there's just a little bit of goalpost reshifting I think we have to do with Beaver football at this point in the season. It's been a disappointment, and it's only because of the standard that Bemidji State football has set in terms of making the tournament the last 4 years. And you know what? Like, that, you're not supposed to make the tournament every year. Like, that doesn't happen all the time. So we've gotten spoiled a little bit. So it's certainly been a bummer. They haven't started 0-3 for a really long time, Ian. I'd have to go back and look. But it certainly probably has not been in the Bolte era, unless I'm maybe missing a year or two thrown in there. I feel like every Bolte team, which goes back to the 2016 season, if Bolte, I guess, was interim head coach in 16, but if you count from 17 and forward, they've never started 0-3, which is just it's a tough thing you got to do. And now you kind of have to pick up the pieces and figure things out. And this will be the interesting part. There's still bowl games. There's still all that could be on the table. NCAA tournament, definitely looking, not, if there's still like a sliver of a chance. I mean, hey, the Minnesota Twins were only mathematically eliminated from the playoffs on Saturday. So, like, there still is a sliver that could follow, but there's a little bit of priority reshifting that you kind of have to do. Obviously, you want the Beavers to win every game, and we're not saying otherwise, but it's, as a fan, as you're watching, it's not just so much about winning every game. Now we got to find the little things to look at. You got to find some other things, because I think we both agree, Ian, that this is a Bemidji State football program that has proven to kind of, like, if they get knocked down a little bit, bounce right back up. And so I think there is faith in this coaching staff. There's faith in some of the players here. It just feels like it's kind of like a retransition, and you have to start this thing maybe a little bit more from the ground up than we thought.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's probably the case. The reason it's so disappointing is because this team has set such high expectations over the last 4 seasons of not only making the playoffs, but winning a playoff game. And last year winning 2 playoff games and being 4 yards away from a national semifinal. And this feels like a very, very far and abrupt fall from grace, which is unfortunate. But yeah, you got to shift the expectations a little bit at this point and start working on what these players are going to look like. You know, who are you going to have around in the future, and what can you do to improve your team towards the end of this season, so that, you know, even if you're not playing your best football right now, how are you playing better week over week? And I think that's what Bolte and this coaching staff can do a good job of, and I have faith in them to do. You know, Carver, I think, started this game.
Romack did finish it.
But I
don't know if that's more of like a, like, you know, we don't want guys to get hurt kind of a thing more than anything. But yeah.
Yeah. So Carver 7 for 11, 75 yards and a touchdown. Romack 8 for 16, 93 yards. And then Bart Mechanic did actually throw a pass for a 2-yard completion as well. Some good things in the rushing department. Antonio Brown had a big touchdown run of 59 yards. He had 5 carries for 98 yards on the day. Jaden Washington, again, with a pretty good average of 4.2 yards per carry on 9 attempts for 41 yards. And then Justin Incaprera had a couple of carries as well for 22 yards. It's hard to see because the Beaver offense just isn't out there for that long. And so you don't get this big buildup of stats, unfortunately, when, you know, you're going 3 and out quite a few times and that sort of thing. But there was quite a few different receivers who caught a pass. It looks like 8 different players catching a pass for the Beavers in this game. Xavier Guerrera leading the way, 3 catches, 60 yards. Drayton Lehman with 6 catches for 38 yards. So, yeah, offensively, it's been a work in progress, you know, to say the least, unfortunately. You know, we kind of thought maybe it would be pretty smooth. You know, we looked at Sam McGath taking over last year, and he was experienced in different ways.
A lot more credit than maybe sometimes we did last season. Not that we didn't give him credit, but I mean, he just did a really good job stepping into some big shoes.
He did, and he was experienced in different ways. You know, I mean, he had way more experience under his belt in a different sense than either Carver or Romack does. You know, trying to step in and learn this
as well, more developed and things like that, and like a couple more years in the strength program and stuff like that.
And this is a new offensive system. You know, either way, like Jordan Hine probably taking some of the. Man, I'm blanking on the former
Coach Pike. Yeah,
Carson Pike. Yeah, he probably has a lot of influence from Coach Pike's system in there, but it is still a new offense you have to learn. So any of that experience that Romack had in his first 2 seasons of learning the Carson Pike offense might now be thrown out the window. And it's not all different, but you know, it's an unfortunate start to the season. The Beavers, unfortunately, right now sitting with the 13th ranked defense in terms of scoring in the NSIC. Only Concordia St. Paul has given up more points than the Beavers this season.
Well, there's also a couple points you could look into that, Ian. When you look at the red zone defense of Bemidji State, they've had an opponent get into the red zone 12 times. They've given up 9 touchdowns when a team has gotten into the red zone. And when you look at red zone touchdowns allowed, only UMary and Concordia St. Paul have given up more red zone touchdowns.
Yeah. Opponent third down conversion rate, the Beavers are actually pretty good at 47.6, which I was kind of looking at that just to see. Sometimes on those scoring drives, it does feel like we get them pinned back. And then there's just maybe it's just the fact that they're giving them up in big spots, but then, you know, in other spots, they are making the stop.
Anecdotally, it kind of sticks out a little bit more than maybe the stats would say.
Right. Exactly. But yeah,
either way. That does stay by the one thing that anecdotally and evidentiary, I don't know, we're just saying words on this podcast. But for Bemidji State, when you look at the number of penalties they've had throughout the season, they've had 23 penalties called on them through 3 games. Only UMary has committed more penalties. This is overall offense, defense, special teams. As a team, 23 penalties committed for 193 yards. Both of those ranked second in the NSIC, averaging 64.3 penalty yards per game. And only UMary has more penalties committed, more penalty yards allowed throughout the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem, and that's going to be a reason. There wasn't necessarily one thing that you can point to in this game that you lose by 33 points, and you can say, well,
It's
that's
hard to
what we
put it
need to
all
do
in one
better.
area or person or coach or whatever. That's one that I'm sure the coaching staff will even say, like, yep, that one we all have to kind of. There's an old story of the Patriots, and like the first year they won the Super Bowl, they got blown out by the Bengals, and like Coach Belichick showed up and like buried the football in the field on the first day of practice. It's just one of those things where you bury the football and everybody kind of takes a turn stomping on the dirt and be like, we're like, you take the game ball from that game, you bury it and you say, we're never dealing with that one again. Like, and it's a way mentally of just being like, we have to move on. And that's what you have to do in football, whether it's a big win or a big loss. You can't linger on it and you got to move on. And as bad as this season has been so far for the Beavers, I think we still can look and be like, the first three opponents they had were most certainly not cakewalks either. It's not like these games were all like super easy opponents, and a little bit easier opponents are coming up down the pipe. Ian, the only problem is now you got Augustana.
But not yet. Yeah, I think Augustana is
rough part.
Ranked top like 13 in the country. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, I was just looking over some of the offensive and defensive stats for the Vikings, and they don't run the ball a lot. They're 12th in the NSIC in rush yards per game with 80.7 rush yards per game. They only average 2.7 yards per rush, but their passing attack, second in the NSIC. Of course, it's hard to be first if you're not named Moorhead. So Augustana, the best of the non-Dragon teams, 317 yards per game through the air. The next highest is Northern State at 281 on average. So the Vikings are going to look to air the ball out. The Beavers have a middle of the road in the NSIC pass defense, 209 yards per game given up. Unfortunately, that might be skewed a little bit based off of the fact that in this last game, Sioux Falls was up quite a bit, and they might have been running a little bit more towards the end of that game. So might not be the most accurate stat in the world, but either way, it's you're gonna have your work cut out for you against a tough Augustana team. We knew they were going to be tough prior to the season starting, and now you look at it and you kind of you gulp a little bit louder when you look at this matchup.
Well, and here's the other thing too. I think there is a bounce back nature to this for Bemidji State because they were coming off a deflating loss in Winona on the road. Like there's a little bit of the mental battle, and now you get blown out at home. And there is a little bit of like the motivating factor. We're going to learn a lot about this team and how they respond in that game, right? Like we're going to see, like, are they going to come out and be like, hey, that's not us. Like we are going to come out here and show that, like, even if we're not going to win this game, like we're going to make Augustana earn it. They're not just going to come on here onto our field and do whatever they want to do. We're going to show them that we can do that. And this is the thing too, when you look at, if you look at defensive efficiency, which again, it's calculated in a number of different ways, but this is on the NSIC statistics page for football. Defensive efficiency, Bemidji State actually is top 4 in defensive efficiency when you look at kind of completion percentage and yards per game and things like that. So there is a bit of a sliver of hope there for the defense, maybe kind of having a bounce back game against, like you said, Ian, a tough passing attack from Augustana. The problem has been the offensive efficiency. And again, if it kind of goes by that completion percentage and quarterback rating and all things like that, Bemidji State quarterbacks have a 53.1% completion rate for under 400 yards through the first 3 games, 2 touchdowns. So it's not going to be that high, but I think there is a lot to learn. Again, even if Bemidji State doesn't come out and win this game, Ian, there's a couple areas of the team I'm looking at for seeing how it grows. And one of which, as we talked about, has been the trenches, right? The defensive line, the offensive line. How are they going to gel? And specifically when you look at the offensive line, for, like you said, a new offense with Coach Hine and newer quarterbacks in Romack and Carver, the development this year and how things look and how the operation runs and just kind of ways like that, I think are going to be very interesting. They've proven they still have some skill position players. Obviously, Antonio Brown having a nice start to his season. Jaden Washington's have been a solid player for this group for a while. So, like, can they kind of get that to match up with the offensive line play? I think will be an interesting thing to watch. And, of course, the quarterback in Connor Carver or maybe Romack comes in. Whoever it is and whoever Bemidji State wants to roll with, we kind of said, like, okay, they're going with Carver, and that just might be a decision of, like, this guy's a sophomore and maybe he's going to take his lumps this year, but we're going to have him get the game reps, and we're going to hope as the year goes on that he develops. So, if Carver is going to be the guy, if Romac's going to be the guy, whoever it is, whoever they stick with, do we see development, not just in this game against Augustana, but over the course of the season? Can they get into rhythm? And can there be a thing where going into 2026, we go, all right, well, at least they found out with quarterback X, they can do Y and Z. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be about development from here on out, to be honest with you. You got to just take it a game at a time when you're looking at the schedule. You can't get ahead of yourself. There's no point in getting ahead of yourself at this point because, like she just said, there is still hope to make the playoffs, but you've got to start here. Like, this has to be a big upset victory for the Beavers if they want to get back on that trail. And then even, making a bowl game or finishing top half in the conference, whatever it is you want to achieve by the end of the season, having at least a good game here and playing a close one with Augustana would be a big step in the right direction towards what the rest of this, the 7 remaining games you have on the schedule look like, especially because, there is still the NSIC North up for grabs. You haven't played a single opponent in the NSIC North yet. And there are some, I don't want to call them cupcakes in the NSIC North, but it's definitely probably a little bit more bottom heavy of the 2 divisions in the NSIC now that they've kind of added that back in. So it's still definitely up for grabs. You got one more game before that officially starts in a couple of weeks. So you definitely want to see them start to make improvements in that category and see if they can start to gel as a cohesive unit, both offensively and defensively by that time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the pass defense too will be very interesting to see how it goes in this game. Like you said, a big a pass first offensive unit for Augustana, and how that translates and all the kind of things like that will be very fascinating to watch as the game goes on. Ian, anything else with the football teams matchup coming up here for this game against Augustana? It's at the Chet again. Weather, I don't know what the weather quite looks like for Bemidji that day. There might be some rain in the forecast. It kind of just depends on how things go. But overall should be another good day at the Chet. Those early season games are always the ones the student section fills up for, because it is considerably warmer than their final couple home games always end up being. That, and if there's a game scheduled during hunting season, Bemidji State fans are probably in a deer stand somewhere. So it'll be fun to see the Chet filled up. Anything else anything else football related we need to touch on?
Nothing crazy. Get out to the Chet, support the team. They still deserve your support. They've earned that over the last 4 years, if nothing else. And football is just fun. It's just fun. What else are you going to do on a Saturday at 1:00? Nothing you college kids got going on starts until later in the evening and afternoon anyways. So get out to the Chet, enjoy the game. It should be a beautiful day, and go Beavers. That's really all I have to say. Good luck against the Vikings. It's going to be a tough one.
Let's go. All right. So there's a couple other notes we need to mention right off the top. Men's and women's hockey tickets. Ian, what do we got?
Yeah, single game tickets go on sale next Monday for I think, is it men's and women's hockey both?
I don't know. I think for sure men's hockey, right?
For sure men's hockey. Women's hockey tickets might already be on sale because they start a week earlier. I'm not sure about that.
Next weekend, which is crazy.
Yeah, they start really soon here, coming up next weekend. But yeah, it's about that time, man. I mean, yeah, I can't. Sorry, I'm trying to stall because I'm trying to get to the article and actually read if it's both men's and women's. Yes, both men's and women's hockey seasons will go on sale beginning Monday, September 22nd at 10 a.m. So a little bit of stalling there. Had to get that sorted out for you guys. Go get your tickets. Hockey season is right around the corner. It should be fun. I'm sure we'll talk about the fact that the coaches poll and the media poll just came out earlier this week, and where the Beavers finished in that. And then
where they finished? Tell us.
Yeah, both of them had us finishing 6th in the CCHA, which I don't know, man. I mean, we finished 7th last year, so that's an improvement. I think I'm optimistic about what the team can do this year, but there's still so much up in the air because the roster came out a couple weeks ago, and there's all these surprise CHL kids that are in there, and it's like, whoa, what the, like, this is awesome. Like, this, it could be a very, very good thing for the Beavers. They could be a contender in the CCHA. but it also could be, all right, well, they're just kind of normal recruits that we would get any other year. And we're still going to have our growing pains trying to bounce back from finishing 7th in the conference last year. But either way, Saratori's a pretty good coach, and I think he can probably get the best out of his guys. And just looking at what they did in the CHL last year has me excited. Some of those guys scored a lot of points, so I'm excited for hockey season. Men's is a couple weeks away. Next weekend is women's. Like it's here. It's 87 degrees outside right now where I'm at, but yeah, hockey season is here for some reason.
I was just about to say, yeah, it's 85 degrees as of recording of this podcast, and Ian's ready to hit the ice. So just shows you where we're at. And it's awesome to get Beaver hockey going again. It'll be really fun. We'll talk women's hockey in their season opener a little bit more in next week's show, but just so you know, that is coming up down the pipe as well. All right, Ian, we need to first, before we get moving on in the show, talk a little bit about the Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. Once a Beaver, always a Beaver. The Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000, let me say that again, 50,000 graduates around the world, from scholarships that open doors, students, to events that bring BSU alumni and friendships together. You can get connected, give back, leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or you just love cheering on the Beavers, it's open to everyone. Come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. 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 Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. Those guys do such a great job. Seen so many great articles and things like that they're putting out, Ian, including, did you see this about one of the players on the football team making like scientific breakthroughs? Have you seen that pop up?
I did. Yeah, that was really cool. I can't remember who it was for the life of me, but yeah, it's awesome to see because they are student athletes after all, and student comes first, as they say. So as much as we focus on the athlete side of all these student athletes, it is still cool to see that they all are achieving such wonderful things off the field as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Go over and read what they're all putting up there over at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, and the other stories that they're highlighting as well for graduates and things like that. They do such a great job, Micah and his team. So go check that out. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud sponsors of the Beaver Banter podcast. All right, Ian, let's focus a little bit on to the women's soccer side of things. They had one game over the weekend. It was against a rival of the Beavers, non-conference, conference, non-conference, whatever. Doesn't matter. Bemidji State playing University of Minnesota Duluth. And after, going 1-1 on the Missouri road trip, they play a familiar face in the Bulldogs, and a familiar result ensues.
Yeah. 3-1 victory for the Beavers in this game. And it was a comeback win. They were down 1-0 at halftime. Ironically enough, Duluth has a player named Caitlin Beavers on their team. And she scored against the Bemidji State Beavers in this game. So
I think we need to recruit her, I guess. How do we hit the ball? How do we do this? Because the wrong team.
There's not only one but two teams in this conference that you could have gone to that made more sense for you. But sure, go to Duluth. That's you know what, that shows me something about your character, Caleb.
Look, man, people who live in Duluth, it doesn't make sense anyways. So you know what? I guess she fits right.
She's clearly confused. She didn't know what she was doing. But
clearly, she saw the fall foliage and decided, you know what? That's it. Despite the fact that Lake Bemidji State Park looks great this time of year. Much better than driving around a hill in Duluth.
Yeah, exactly. Comeback win, though, for the Beavers, getting 3 goals in the second half. Molly Bergstrand scored her first goal of the season, assisted by who else? Katrina Barthelt. And then tell me if you heard this name before, CJ, scoring 2 goals in this game. Katrina Barthelt in the 54th minute, technically, scores her first of the game, and then a penalty kick goal in the 65th minute to give the Beavers the 3-1 lead, which would officially win them the game. She's amazing. And I don't know if you saw the the goal, I believe it was her goal that she scored.
I think it was. Yeah, the video. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope I'm not misremembering this. I'm pretty sure it was Katrina's goal that she cut inside. Like, oh yeah, it was, because I made the comp to Kylian Mbappe of Real Madrid.
As
That's what it looked like.
Totally should have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It was really, really good. Unbelievable. So yeah, you're going to be hearing that name a lot. Get used to it. She's bound to probably darn near lead the NSIC in goals this year. She's already got 3 on the season, and she added an assist in this game as well for an unofficial hat trick for the Beavers. And it's good to see them scoring 3 goals in a game. It's kind of rare that you see the Beavers do that. Like we talk about all the time, this team kind of just usually grinds out 1-0 and 2-1 victories if they get them, or a 1-1 game or something like that. So it's anytime they get over 2 goals in a game, I'm going to get super excited about it, because this team doesn't really score that often. It's just not the way that they play. And actually UMD had more shots on goal in this game. The shots on goal was 11-7 in favor of the Bulldogs, 6-5 in terms of shots on target. However, BSU made 5 saves in the game. UMD only made 2, and that was, of course, the difference in the game, in the 3-1 victory. That was the only game for the weekend. It didn't count officially towards the conference standings, but now this coming weekend, we get right into that with a couple of games. It's the usual Friday evening at 7 p.m. That's senior day, and then it's parents' weekend on Sunday at 1 p.m. These games are against Southwest Minnesota State on Friday and Sioux Falls on Sunday. Looking at the standings right now to see where these teams are at.
By the way, revenge on Sunday, by the way, for Sioux Falls coming into the chat. Get a little bit of revenge, women's soccer.
Yeah, that's a great point. Southwest Minnesota State, so far, I'm looking at stats here, not the standings, of course. But so far they've played 3 games. They've allowed 4 goals. They've scored 6 goals. So that's an average of 2 goals a game. But yeah, then you look down here at Sioux Falls. They have scored 2 goals they've allowed 2 goals in 3 games. They've scored 3 goals in 3 games. So they're a little bit more defensive minded than SMSU has been. Of course, it's a 3-game sample size. We can't take anything super,
you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but it's all we have to go off of. So.
That's what I was looking at. Like you said, that's all we have to go off of so far. So we're kind of just grasping at straws here, looking at early season stats, especially in soccer. When I think we talked about this last week, I don't know if it was on or off the air, but it's really hard, especially because, like, if you're watching the Premier League or the Champions League or something, like, they have these bibs that they're wearing that track their entire movement statistics and, like, how fast they're runing and all that. Like, I don't think that we have
great analytics.
Yeah, we're looking at like goals per game and shots per game and that sort of thing, and that's pretty much it. Soccer is not a very statistic based sport, other than the main base ones, with points and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm looking for a great start to the season for the Beavers. 2 games here at home. It's still going to be warm out. You got a home field advantage. You're at the Chet. You don't have to travel. Yeah, I'm excited for the conference season to get underway. Sioux Falls 2-1 on the season so far. Southwest Minnesota State 1-2 on the season so far. So both sitting pretty similar. Beavers are also 2-1 on the season. Of course, nobody has played a conference game yet. So again, just a 3-game sample size. We don't know who these teams played, how good their opponents were. Maybe 1-2 looks pretty good when you consider who they played. I don't know. But yeah, either way, Beaver Soccer back at the Chet this weekend for some more action. 2 games Friday and Sunday. Let's go.
Yeah, and by the way, last time the Beavers played the Mustangs, there was a 2-1 victory for the Beavers. They were able to win on matchup on October 6th of 2024. All goals in that match were scored in the second half. Just something to keep a quick eye on. 2 years ago they played. It was a 1-1 draw. Bemidji State has not lost a game outright to SMSU since 2013. So it's been a lot of dominance for the Beavers over the last 12-year stretch. And if you want to look at the Beavers against USF,
you think that's impressive?
They've never lost.
They've never lost to Sioux Falls, man.
Never
12-0.
It started
Undefeated. Never lost.
Started back in 2012. They've won every match since. 6-0 at home, 6-0 on the road. The matchup a year ago was, of course, a patented 1-0 Beaver victory back on September 29th. And let's see what happens again this year. So right now it feels like, and again, going off of kind of past experiences, it feels like this is a good weekend for Beaver women's soccer to get a good start to conference play and just kind of ramp them back into it.
Dude, hey, listen, the past is not a good way to, judge the present necessarily.
Especially in college sports. But Sioux Falls has only scored 3 goals all time against Bemidji State University in 12 meetings. They've lost every game. They've only scored 3 goals. They scored 1 in the first ever matchup in a 2-1 loss. They scored 1 in 2015 in a 7-1 defeat in Bemidji. And then they scored 1 a couple of years ago in 2022 in a 4-1 defeat. Everything else has been a shutout, or as they say in soccer, a clean sheet for the Beavers. So let's keep that train going. Let's we've had enough, sadness this year already. We don't need more. Let's keep the streak alive against Sioux Falls. Let's get some revenge for the football game this last weekend on the same field, and let's start the season off with 6 points, shall we? I've been watching some of the highlights here of the women's soccer match, and that Barthelt goal, man, just a thing of beauty.
Absolutely.
Like, the broadcast of UMD actually has multiple angles on it, and it's really cool to get to see it, not just kind of from the bird's eye view, but they also have like a shot from behind the net, and you can kind of see her come up and weave her way through a few defenders and get to the goal, and just overall really, really cool. By the way, should be noted too, in that match against UMD, Molly Bergstrand not only got her first goal of the season, but her first ever collegiate goal as well. So shout out to her on the program. Nice. All right. Also, shout out to Bemidji State Volleyball, who not only got their first win of the season, got win number 1 in the Coach Butte era, but also went 3 of 4 at the Hampton Inn Invitational in Kenosha, Wisconsin. They won games against Roosevelt, Missouri S&T, and McKendree, all winning in straight sets 3-0, and then went to a 5-setter against Parkside, where the Beavers ultimately lost in 5. Taking a little bit of a look at the recap here, Ian, for that 5th and final match, that 4th and final match of the tournament that went to 5. You had Lily Reese with 14 kills and a block, Ava Athman 13 kills and 2 blocks in that one. So overall, just a really a good turnout for the Beavers in that matchup. Overall, they had 30 errors compared to Parkside's 23. So if you just kind of look at things that make or break it, you probably end up going with that one. Bemidji State lost in the first set in extra points, 26-24. Then Bemidji State got wins in sets 2 and 4. And then the 5th set, which again, as we talk about all the time, in volleyball, the 5th set is a sprint. The other 4 sets are marathons. When you get to the 5th set, it goes quick because it's only 1st to 15. So whichever team just kind of has the hot start in that one ends up coming out. So again, the attempts for both teams were the same when you look at hitting percentage in that loss. Just a little bit better for Parkside, which again, if you have a little more, if a team has more errors, they probably also had the worst hitting percentage just in terms of getting their attacks to land. But overall, and Parkside had 13 aces compared to Bemidji State 7. So a little bit better attempt by Parkside at the service line compared to the Beavers. But overall, a good victory for Bemidji State. Ian, we'll break down some of these wins here in a second, but just good for the Beavers, not only to get win number 1 of the season and win number 1 for Coach Butte as the head coach of the Beaver volleyball program, but to win 3 out of 4 just gives you a good amount of confidence going into NSIC play. They're 3-5 overall on the season.
Yeah, that's a big step for this program, and hopefully they can carry some of that momentum into conference play because it was huge too, getting they swept their first 3 opponents. I'm not sure if you touched on that or not, but and then sets, going to 5 unfortunately and not being able to pull it out, that stinks. It would have been a fun clean weekend sweep down there in or over there, I suppose, in Kenosha. But at the end of the day, getting 3 out of 5, you started the first 2 days of the tournament 3-0, losing 0 sets out of 9. Like, that's super impressive. And hopefully it's something they can build on going into conference play that starts up in the same way that women's soccer does against SMSU and Sioux Falls, in that order. I'm assuming they are just taking the same buses up here as the soccer teams, which makes a lot of sense. But hey, who knows? SMSU 7-0 on the season so far. That's not a shocker. They are a pretty good volleyball program over there, as with a lot of the programs in the NSIC. Sioux Falls 5-3 so far.
The best volleyball conference in Division II.
Yeah,
it's insane.
There's currently 4 teams undefeated in the conference, and then another handful with only 2 losses behind them. Sioux Falls at 5-3 to start the season. Bemidji State at 3-5. But again, we haven't seen conference play, so we'll get some more matchups against familiar opponents. We can start to gather more information about some of these teams in the conference and preview games a little bit better, or matches and sets and that sort of thing, going into the future here for volleyball. But either way, a great start to the season, getting some wins in Kenosha.
Yeah, exactly. It's just overall good to kind of get that momentum going and to be able to just feel like you have some positive momentum rolling into the season, and seeing what you can into the conference part of the season. To win 3 out of 4 there is just overall a good vibe for your team to be coming into the season. By the way, should be noted as they get ready for conference play, if you go to assists, and if you assists per set, and assists per set. So a set assist per set. It's volleyball's got a lot of terminology where if you're not in it, it's kind of hard to break down. But if you look at Madison Tripp for the Beaver, she currently is ranked 13th in the NSIC, averaging 5.7 sets per assist. If you look at that ranks 13th in the conference. And then again, that basically breaks down like kind of who's the main setter for each team. And for those who don't know, the setter in volleyball, you're kind of like not the quarterback in a way, but you're very much kind of the focal point of an offense. It's your job to distribute the ball and to literally set up your attackers. You're not the first one that gets the ball typically, but you're the one who, after kind of the first bump, will get it and set it up for your attacker to try and go. So a very important focal point of your team, kind of in that setter position.
Yeah, a quarterback's going to touch the ball on almost every play. I suppose there's direct snaps and all that sort of thing, but a setter's not quite going to do it that often. But yeah, if you get a clean pass, it's most likely going to your setter to set up somebody for the kill. So very important. Very important.
Exactly. Carly Dunham of Bemidji State, by the way, as well, in terms of blocks, is ranked 10th in the NSIC in just total blocks. If you go in kind of blocks per set and you want to rank it that way, she is 10th in the NSIC as well, kind of getting ready for conference play. So here we go. We'll see what Bemidji State can do. We'll kind of keep an eye on things for the volleyball program, but overall, it'll be interesting to see again what Coach Bew can do now that we are entering into kind of the next phase of the season in terms of conference play, and see what they can do to get things going for this Beaver offense. Again, kind of Lily Reese, one of the main attackers, as well as Ava Athman. You've seen Grace Hofford or Madison Tripp kind of work her way into the conversation as well. But there you go. That's kind of the next update for Beaver volleyball. Ian, we're going to wrap things up in the podcast, talking a little bit about some cross-country stuff, about some men's and women's golf, and just kind of other things to wrap up the show. But we also want to give another big shout out to our sponsors of the program, Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Yes, we do, CJ. Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State, so don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's BSUALMU. I'm sorry. That's BSUALUMNI.org/BEAVERS.
So Bemidji State men's and women's golf, we talked about last week how they were wrapping up the Tracy Lane Memorial as well as the Bemidji State Invitational, the first one for the women's, Bemidji State Invitational for the men's. But now in Bemidji State, by the way, finishing first in their Bemidji State Invitational for the men's side of things, the women's finishing 7th in that one. But now we get to, again, as of recording this podcast, day 2 of the Maverick Golden Bear Fall Brawl in Hudson, Wisconsin at Troy Byrne Golf Course. So again, Mankato and Concordia St. Paul hosting a meet, kind of co-hosting, except they're doing it in Hudson, Wisconsin, which I guess, because there's probably not a ton of golf courses you could use in St. Paul for this at this time of the year, maybe would be my guess. But that's where things are at. Bemidji State women's were ranked 13th out of 14 in day 1. They're wrapping up day 2 action as we speak. And for the men, they were kind of in the middle of the pack at 6th of 11 going through day 1.
Yeah, good start so far for both programs. I was happy to see the women's bounce back after starting 9th of 9 in that Tracy Lane Memorial Tournament and finish 7th instead of finishing in 9th like they were on day 1. So hopefully we can see both teams improve on day 2 of these tournaments and continue right along. I mean, like we talked about last week, fall golf just feels odd. It's a little bit preseason-y, but it's still fun. It's still good to get good results because they got to do what they can here up north because the golf season, it makes a lot of sense for it to be split up because they wouldn't get a lot of time to just do a fall season or just do a spring season. So it makes a lot of sense that they do kind of one in each end of the spectrum there.
Looking at the live stats right now, really a lot of NSIC teams are here. Winona State right now is minus 13. It looks like they're going to run away with it. I know they're kind of still in the last few holes of the match. Concordia St. Paul is in second right now. They finished 1 under. Everybody else is over. Sioux Falls +1, Mankato +15, Augustana +16. Bemidji and Augustana still has a few more holes to finish up here. So we could see how that ends up finishing. Looks like the Beavers are going to finish either 6th or 5th, again, depending on how Augustana finishes their second round of action here this afternoon. So Bemidji State, again, not dropping. They started with a +13 on day 1. Day 2, a +8. So a much better showing in day 2 when you look at the men's golf kind of live stats here for everybody involved in the team leaderboard here as I'm looking through, trying to see if I believe I was looking at that was the men's. Yeah, there you go. Looking at the men's. So looking at the women's leaderboard on the team leaderboard throughout so far, Minnesota State looks like they're primed to take first in kind of their co-host and meet. The Beavers are going to finish 13th. They're still wrapping things up. They're on their last couple holes, so maybe things change a little bit. Right now, they are 13th with a +102 overall. They were +57 on day 1, +45 on day 2, which again, if you've played the course once, you come back the second day, you're probably going to have a little bit better outing since you kind of know the course a little bit better as you kind of make your way throughout the course. In terms of the individual leaderboard for the Beavers in men's golf, Brogan Pascal right now tied for 9th, I believe is what they have him kind of sitting at, although they don't have a number for him. Or he's at even, he's at even. So tied for 9th as he was at a perfect even throughout the course. So he parred his way through. He was the top Beaver golfer finisher on the men's side of things. And now take a look, Ian, over to cross country as they wrap things up. I know they didn't compete over the weekend. They're getting ready to take place in the GRIAC race next week. That's pretty much been the story for Beaver cross country as we get things going. So what else do we need to know in Beaver sports as we wrap up the pod today?
Well, I just remembered that we should probably plug the Discord. If you're not in the Beaver Banter Discord, get in there. It's the place to be, especially when hockey season rolls around. Not to slight any of the other sports, but we do have live game threads every hockey game for for the men's team. We know that's kind of the big ticket around the Bemidji area. So that's always really fun to get in there and chat during hockey games and watch the games together as kind of a community and have people to talk to as things break down. Also, women's hockey, I forgot, does actually start this weekend. They do have a big exhibition against Minnesota at the Brainerd Essential Health Sports Center in Brainerd, Minnesota. Kind of a cool opportunity for people in northern Minnesota. Maybe I get in trouble for saying that. I know that's been a big talking point on Twitter. I grew up in South Central Minnesota, so to me, that's always been the cutoff. But I definitely understand how people that live in Bemidji don't consider Brainerd northern Minnesota, because it technically is like in the center of the state. But for me, it's in the top half of the state. So
I mean, to you, St. Cloud State's like northern Minnesota. St. Cloud is
no. I mean, come on. I'm only about a half hour south of them. Like that's
like literally it is just north of where you.
Technically, like, you know, Annandale is north of me by about a mile. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's all relative, of course.
He's going up north for the weekend and he just is going to Annandale.
We always would say that. Okay. So my parents growing up, like they bought a little trailer on a lake right near our house because they wanted lake property. They wanted somewhere to go put the boat in and it works. And it was technically 0.6 of a mile north of our house. And so we would always say, hey, we're going up north for the weekend. And it was just a little funny running bit for our family, even though it was literally 0.6 of a mile down the road. We would bike back and forth if we forgot something.
You're just biking up north for the weekend. Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, I just take a quick bike ride up north. People are like, oh, really? Wow, that's impressive.
Wow, good for you. Yeah, I know. You shouldn't talk to me for like 6 hours on my ride. So if you just
exactly.
Not disturb me, that'd be awesome. Don't you have to get ready? Or I thought you were trying to get there by tonight. Oh yeah, I am.
Trust me, I'm pretty good. I can get there in time. But yeah, no, it's cool to get to try and play at that facility in Brainerd and get an opportunity to do some stuff. I have spent a lot of time in Brainerd in my life. Currently live only about an hour from there. I've never been in their hockey rink, so I am very curious. Neither am I.
To see how that facility looks, and it might be a good excuse to go down and catch little Beavers play as things are going on. Is really cool because, again, we talk about state of hockey all the time, but you get to kind of showcase that a little bit by just talking about by getting to go to different rinks and getting to go to see different things and how it's all gonna play out for the Beavers and things like that. By the way, also, maybe you mentioned this and maybe I just missed it, but also getting to play in Grand Rapids as well, coming up in late January.
Yeah, that's what I was going to look for. I kind of forgot when that was scheduled for.
January 31st, 2026. It's a 4:00 puck drop at Yanmar Arena in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, that's going to be
Minnesota State.
That's going to be kind of fun. I saw something about that, and that's kind of what I was honestly going to look for with the women's hockey schedule. And then I remembered, they have another exhibition against the Gophers to start the season off, and I stopped scrolling as soon as I saw that. But yes, January 31st against Minnesota State. That is a WCHA game held at a neutral site. So I'm very familiar with the Grand Rapids area. My grandparents have lived up there my whole life. That's a big reason why I chose the Bemidji State University when I decided I wanted to go to college, because I was so familiar with the Northwoods and I like being up there. So yeah, that'll be cool. I might try to make my way up for that game. Who knows?
Honestly, that wouldn't be a bad game either. The only thing I will say, so this is another thing onto that game again, that the Beavers and the Mavericks are going to be playing later in the season. They are also going to be playing for the Hall of Fame game trophy. This is a game that's trying to raise awareness for the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame Museum in Eveleth and showcase, of course, women's hockey at a very high level, which is awesome to see. The only thing is, and maybe I'm missing something, one like Bemidji State versus Duluth have been good because it literally is in between both towns.
It's the halfway point. Yeah.
On the same road connects all three towns in Highway 2.
Yeah, that would have been a very good opportunity, actually, now that you say that. But who knows? Maybe the scheduling didn't quite work out with when they wanted to do it. Like, I don't know if they're doing it this specific reason, or weekend for a reason. They probably are. But maybe the scheduling just didn't work out. But you're right, CJ. That would have been even cooler if it was just the Highway 2 brawl. Just they met in the middle.
Maybe do we go westward? Do we try and have the Beavers and UND play like in the middle? Where would that even be? Hey, we're gonna go play in Foston today.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a rink out here? No, we're gonna go play out on the lake.
Yeah, we're just gonna make a sheet of ice somewhere. We'll figure it out.
You can't do that one in early September or late September. You can't quite do that one. But I mean, really, when you think about it, I'm trying to think of where you'd even go west because obviously it's just a little more. The towns are a little more sparse, in terms of hockey towns. Maybe Crookston, although that's really close to UND's territory, but maybe Crookston, maybe that would have to be the play. But, with rivalries in other sports, you don't necessarily see Crookston as like a very, Bemidji State Beaver friendly territory.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas Grand Rapids, it's a little closer in that aspect. Yeah. Grand Rapids is a cool town though. Really do enjoy it. When I worked at the TV station in Duluth and had to do stories over there, it was always fun to get to drive in that direction and go there and check it out. So it'll be really cool. That might be a game where we need to plan a Beaver Banter road trip or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, on-air production meeting. Let's just plan it out during the end of the podcast here. No, it's really cool to get to see them go and do all those stuff. And remember, women's hockey drops a week from Friday against Wisconsin at the Sanford Center. It's just beginning. And men's hockey not too far away. All right, that's Beaver Banter Podcast. Anything else, Ian?
No, it should be a good weekend of sports. I'm excited to see the soccer team especially jump into conference play this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, roll Beavs. We'll